Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another live stream where we will be discussing the differences between early action, early decision, what are these early applications, and what are some strategies that if you're a student watching or if you're the parent of a student, how it can be a great strategy to apply early when it might not be the best. So without further ado, why don't we get started? I'm here with Francisco.
Hi, yes, it's a pleasure to join you like we do every week. You can let us know in the comments. You can put a number 1 in the comments if this is your first time watching, or a number 2 if you are someone who has watched us in the past. But again, just as Laura mentioned, today, like we do every week, we select a topic that is relevant, that is pertinent to whatever is going on in the world of college admissions, and then we elaborate on it throughout the process or throughout the hour that we share together, right? So today we'll be talking about the different types of applications that your son or daughter are going to be able to submit and how these are going to impact the odds of admissions, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what we do in this channel. If you go to our Reels, our Instagram posts, our TikToks, you're going to see that all of our content is based on how can you do or navigate the process in such a way that is going to make the percentage or the odds of you being accepted to a to a specific college or university higher, right? So today we're going to be talking about the variable of what type of application you submit, whether it is early action, early decision, regular decision. So we're going to be explaining them. We're going to be explaining the difference for those of you, because I see that there's a lot of ones. Demarius 1878 put a 1. Jose F put a 1. 50 Love on Instagram put a number 2. So we have a mixture, but it seems as though the majority of the people joining us on Instagram are people that are joining us for the first time. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go a little bit more, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on the topics that we explained. But yeah, basically, we're going to be explaining the different types of applications and in what use case or in what specific circumstance is better for your student to submit one over the other, right? So yeah, that's today's topic. If you want to get started, Laura.
Yeah, so first of all, let's talk about commitment. Let's talk about what it means, or when you apply either early action or early decision, how can it affect you? What are you basically committing to? So Fran, why don't you go ahead and explain?
Yeah, right. So basically, there are two types of early applications that your son or daughter can submit, right? And for the most part, both of them tend to increase the odds of acceptance. At the end of the day, the key is going to be to compare or look at a university and look at the admission statistics or the percentage of admissions that come from early action, early decision versus regular decision. But since we're just talking right now about the early applications, let's talk about the difference, right? So when you apply early action or early decision, the similarities is that they're both the same type of application that you'd be submitting under a regular deadline. They're going to ask for an essay. They're going to ask for a, your letters of recommendation, your transcripts, all that good stuff. However, when you have early action, this type of application is not restrictive, meaning that you can wait to see what that particular university or college's decision will be regarding your admission or deferment or, rejection. And after that, you can still wait and see what the other early applications and regular applications you submit. You can wait around to see their decisions as well. And it allows a student to have the flexibility of enjoying the increased odds of acceptance and all the benefits that come along with applying early without the detriment or without, the binding nature of applying early decision. Because what is early decision? Well, when we look at the most important difference when it comes to commitment, it relies on the fact that when you apply to an early decision school, after that decision comes out, if you are someone who is accepted, you have to go to that school, or you're supposed to go to that school, right? You apply to a university under early decision, operating under the premise or with, the full intention of attending that school, regardless of what happens, regardless of the financial aid award package, right? So oftentimes what will happen is, or in a perfect world, the way that it's set up this way is that different schools will have, as we've mentioned in other live streams, different schools will care about different components of the application process. Different schools will say, oh, my priority is SAT or ACT, standardized test scores. Other schools would be like, well, I place a lot of, high value on grades or high value on the students, extracurriculars, character and personal qualities, right? So there's a list of all the different variables that go into consideration when a student is accepted. And one of them is demonstrated interest, similar to how some schools care about the student having good grades. Other schools will also care, or on top of having good grades, will also give value to a student demonstrated that they're interested in attending that particular school. And that's why things like campus visits or attending college fairs, doing a tour, all those things are things that go into consideration to demonstrate the student's interest. Well, on that same vein, if you're applying to a university early decision, you are basically telling the school, I am so interested in attending this school that I will forsaken and I will, give up all potential future admissions, all potential financial aid packages offered by different schools in order to attend your particular institution. And there are schools that place demonstrated interest super high. So this is one of, if not the most, or the highest way in which you can demonstrate this interest, right? So that is the difference between early action and early decision. Basically, one is binding, one is not binding. And if you're a Best College Aid student, what we teach our members, because we do have a program where we help students out on the road to college, basically, we always tell them, if there are universities, if you make your list of colleges, right, making sure that they all satisfy your desired career path and your financial need based on their generosity, the next step is to look at the different types of applications that they offer, whether it's regular decision or early action, early decision, and basically apply to as many, if not all, the schools that offer early action in that list, right? Because then you get the benefits of the increased boost in admissions odds without the detriment of it being binding, right? So that is kind of the way to go about it if you want to approach it in the way that's going to maximize the most odds. There are specific circumstances when it comes to how does your SAT or ACT or GPA stack up to that of the school you're applying to, in which you might deviate from that, blanket statement or rule of thumb. But for the most part, if you are a competitive applicant at these schools, you might want to just go ahead and apply early action to all of them that offer it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's important that you are choosing the right application, that the application that is right for you, for your situation, and for what you are looking for. As Francisco explained, early decision, binding, early action, non-binding, as well as when it comes to applying early, it's not for everybody. And it might be the right thing to do for certain students. It might not be the right thing to do for certain other students. If you have to keep in mind, for example, and something that we were going to cover in the next point, is that the dates for submission when you are applying early, which early decision, early action, there's I think November 1st, a lot of schools already are starting to have those deadlines. That means that every aspect of the application has to be ready. The letters of recommendation, the GPA that you want to submit to schools, SAT or ACT scores. If you're happy with your scores, if you're sending your scores to schools that require it, well, you got to make sure that that is ready, and many, many other things. A lot of students won't apply early or shouldn't apply early because they don't have these things ready, or maybe their GPA is not as high as they want it to be, and they want to maybe put that first semester of senior year, those grades, and try to get good grades to bring it up. So it really does depend on what the students' goals are and their specific situation.
Right. So basically what you want to do is a self-assessment as to where you're at as far as your credentials. Do I have the required SAT, ACT score, or GPA to be competitive and submit an appealing application to that particular university in an early fashion? Or can I sacrifice that extra whatever percentage it is? Because again, remember, point number one, I talked about you have to look at the admission statistics or acceptance rate of early action versus regular decision. And it might have a 20% more favorable, acceptance rate to apply early versus regular, but is sacrificing that worth maybe taking the SAT or ACT one more time? Or if you haven't taken it and it's a school that makes it mandatory, then you might want to go ahead and wait until regular to make sure that you take that exam and that you have a complete full application, right? So there are caveats and there are specific circumstances and scenarios where it might not be the best idea for you to apply early, and rather make sure that you have a completed application before submitting that, early action or waiting for a regular decision, right? So that was the second point that we wanted to cover. And then the next point that we wanted to go over was the dates of response, right? So as we mentioned already, early action, early decision. You apply early, same application that you would submit regularly, but usually it's going to happen within the months of the first few batch of applications happen October 15th. Then the next popular one, as Laura just mentioned, there is a November 1st deadline. There's November 15th, end of November, beginning of December, all the way till the end of the year. Those are typically, the early application deadlines. And naturally, what happens when you apply early is you get a response or a decision early as well. And the timeline usually will follow something along the lines of finding out whether you are going to be accepted or rejected or deferred from a school around December and January, depending on what type of early deadline it was. So I remember, for example, in my situation, I applied to UNC Chapel Hill, which has one of the earliest, if not the earliest decision or application deadline for early action. And I submitted my application October 15th. And before the Christmas break, I already had my acceptance, right? And that's where I ended up going. So that's usually the case for students who apply, in the October deadlines. If you apply on the November, December deadlines, you might have to wait until January. But again, it beats the alternative of applying in January and then having to wait until February, March, or even in some cases April to get those decisions, because, you have decision day by most schools, or at most schools, pending some weird delays like last year, is going to be, or it usually is, the 1st of May, right? So you want to know when you want to know where you'll be accepted, and ideally you want to know this earlier rather than later, so that you have enough time to compare financial aid award packages, so that you have time to digest the decision, look at options, and also so that your student can enjoy their senior year, right? So that is why it's typically better to apply early, on top of, all the boosted odds of acceptance, as I already mentioned in the past. But that's usually what the timeline looks like. Again, only deviate from this timeline if it makes sense for you based on your specific scenario, your specific circumstances. But other than that, if you already know where you will be attending school, or if your student already knows where they'll be attending school by, before New Year's, then that's wonderful, because they have already been primed. Students are primed the first semester of senior year, if they're disciplined, to write all these essays, submit all these early applications, and they're already in the hard-working mode of writing essays and doing all this paperwork and bureaucratic stuff. Well, the beauty of that is that, and something that we certainly tell our members inside Best College Aid, is that if you already know where you're going by December, but you already are used to doing all this work the previous semester, you're going to ease back on that work for the second semester once you get back to school in January. But also, you could keep the pedal the pedal to the metal and keep on working hard. But instead of just applying to colleges, since you already know where you'll go, you just shift the focus to applying for private scholarships, continue writing as many essays, or maybe tone it down a little bit, but still write some essays, and keep looking for personalized private scholarships that you qualify to based on your specific circumstances, your grades, your interests, blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden you have a whole semester of positioning yourself in a way that you pay the least amount of money as possible, as well as for members that are part of Best College Aid, as you know, combining it with federal, state, institutional aid, then you supplement it with all these private scholarships that you'll be applying second semester, right? So that's another aspect of the beauty of finding out early. Again, combined with the fact that you're going to be a second semester senior, you might get a little bit of senioritis. Your student might be checking out a little bit, and it'll be certainly way more enjoyable for them if they can do this with a college acceptance at hand, and they just focus on, keeping their grades good, but also, enjoying those last few months of childhood before college, right? So those were the 3 points that we wanted to cover. First, we explained the difference between early action, early decision, and their caveats and commitment levels. Then we talked about the timeline as far as submissions. And finally, I just finished up with the different timeline in terms of the responses that they'll get when they apply early. Now, for those of you who beyond this are saying, okay, well, that was great, that was lovely, that was helpful, but I want more. I want to keep on learning ways or tips or tricks that can help my students on the road to college. Well, for those of you, we have a free training, a free presentation. It is in the link in our bio in Instagram and TikTok, completely free. All you do is click on the top left corner or whatever it says Best College Aid to go to our profile. You click on the link that is in our bio if you're watching us on TikTok and Instagram. If you're watching us on YouTube and Facebook, it's on the video's description. And then once you're there, you're just gonna opt in for the presentation. It's around 45 minutes. It is significantly more dense than this live streams are. These are more of a conversation. We try to give as much value as possible, but we package the most amount of value on this free training that is called the 6 Steps to Go to College with scholarships. We can share a screen. We can do live demos. So I certainly recommend that if you got value out of this last 20, 30, 40 minutes, however long we've been live, to go check that out and get even more free value for you and your family if you're interested in learning more about how the process works and how you can get scholarships for college.
Exactly. And if you want to watch this presentation, if you want to watch it, if you want to happen to be watching us on YouTube or Facebook, the link to this free training is in this video's description. I will share it in the comment section as well. And yeah, you can register if you happen to be watching us on Instagram and TikTok. My brain is fried today, sorry. You can register in the link in our bio and learn the 6 steps to go to college with scholarships. And well, that's everything that we had for you today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you got a lot of value from this presentation, this talk that we had, and also from if you do register for that free training, that you get a lot of value from that. Okay, thank you so much for watching us. And thank you for joining us.
Yes, and we will have the recording of this live stream on our Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook pages as well. But certainly check out that free training that we just mentioned, and we'll see you either in that free training or next week on these live streams. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Best College Aid.
Tienes que esperar hasta que esté aquí, Francisco.